Hi, it's Michelle MacLaren. I directed episode 404 of Game of Thrones.
And it's also Rob McLachlan. I was the cinematographer on episode 404.
Did you know that I didn't realize that these title sequences were different every single episode till I was watching it and I went, wait a minute, that wasn't in the last episode.
Yeah, somebody pointed that out to me in season 3. I was like, with that so impressive. I never get tired of watching these titles, especially when my own name came up the first time, because I think I was a bigger thrill than the biggest movie I ever worked on was being attached to this project.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, I can't believe each one's different. It's so exciting to see what's new in the title sequence.
See where we're going today.
Now, where did we go in this one? We went to...
were we in Iceland in this one?
Yeah,
in the summertime.
We were in Iceland in the summertime, Croatia, and Northern Ireland.
There's a lot of flying. That's all. I sat down. I was sitting on a flight back from Mexico on a recent project and counting up the flights I'd been on in the last year, and I think I was up to 36, which is a record. And
all for work.
Most of it was all for work.
Wow.
Most of it was this project.
Wow, that was exciting. I'm just looking at the picture of the wall right now, and that was so fun to shoot at the wall. I love that set, the Castle Black set.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I always want to show people photographs of what it actually looks like and what we managed to do with it, but I don't, because I don't want to spoil it for them.
Exactly. I know you can't talk to anybody about it, but I wanted my little nephews to come and visit me there because it would be better than Disney World.
I think just about anybody old enough to watch this show would think coming to this set would be better than Disney World.
I get excited coming to this set.
Me too, but I'm embarrassed to admit it sometimes.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I like this shot. This was fun, Rob. We shot this in actually northern Belfast.
We shot it in a tent. Within a tent.
Yep.
Right outside Castle Black.
Mm-hmm.
In a gravel yard.
In a gravel pit.
Gravel pit on a very blustery day.
Yeah, it was very windy. And I remember walking into this tent, and they had these Moroccan tents set up, and it was so beautiful. And, of course, you made it that much more beautiful with the lighting, but I really liked all the stuff that we had to shoot through here, the mesh curtain-y things and the fire and that kind of stuff.
Lots of layer and texture, and you know, as usual, as with every single set you ever walk into on this show, the art department absolutely knocks it out of the park.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And I think we had 2 tents slung together. So here we have Grey Worm and Masandai, played by Jacob Anderson and Natalie Emmanuel. These two have such great chemistry together. I love working with them. They're so sweet and innocent. It was such a pleasure. I love these actors. I love this relationship. It's so sweet. They're falling in love in this scene, and I love that. I love the intimacy. We really wanted to create that moment when they're connecting, and I love it when their hands kind of slowly come together as they're talking, and they brush up against each other, and it's very sweet, very innocent. And it's also really heartbreaking because he's about to get called off to do something very dangerous, and she knows it.
Always unsolid. Before unsolid, nothing.
And they're talking about their
childhood. It's almost like a prepubescent love affair with them. It's so innocent. It's really sweet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and this was a very, very romantic setting. And we went all over the place with where we were going to shoot this. I think in one incarnation of the script, it was outside and inside, and it was this big village and everything. And then we just couldn't afford the time to fit it in the schedule, so it became this very interior moment.
Squeezed into another day. I think this set was kind of like our, the old proverbial phone booth. You drag a phone booth around with the unit to shoot your phone booth scene whenever you have a minute, and that's sort of what this one ended up being.
That's so true. So they're walking out here, not outside, but into another tent.
Right.
And this is Marine. And this was shot on that same day.
It was.
And that's why we were here in this gravel pit.
That's right. And this is the same lake that they shot the Battle of Blackwater Bay in, believe it or not.
That's right. There's the bay.
And that water is cold.
Really, really cold. They had wetsuit leggings underneath their trousers there, but they had bare feet, and it was really cold. But we came here because of this sewer entrance. This is actually the entrance through the wall when you go from one side of the wall to the other. And we just rebuilt the opening so it looked like a sewer grate.
More genius art department repurposing.
And this was built in the tunnels of Well, this is a mixture. This was actually really fun to do because these shots are in Split, Croatia.
Yeah, this is the Roman, the catacombs under the Roman city in Split.
Right, the old city. And then, but the water part was actually, and this part is actually in an old castle stables in Belfast.
Yeah, Shane Castle in outside Belfast.
So we put together, Rob and I were scouting for a scene later in the episode in Split, and we saw where another episode was shooting in those catacombs, and we thought, oh, you know what, let's put part of our trip into breaking into Marine for these guys in Split.
We wanted a bit of that. I love this location. I love this set. I love the way it came out. It came out feeling very much like I wanted it, imagined it, which was one of the, not to pat myself on the back, but one of the better big Rembrandts. It just really felt that way. And again, when you've got such great art direction, it's really easy to take it that way.
Well, and it was yeah. I mean, Deb Riley, she does an amazing job, and there's so many different stones between this being shot in 3 different places, and Deb really married it all so beautifully together.
Really well.
And one of the interesting challenges was, of course, because part of this was shot in Croatia and part was shot in Northern Ireland, was the extras, was the background players who were so vital and so great, but we had 2 different groups of people from one country to the next.
Swarthy ones and pale ones.
Right.
I think they used up every drop of spray on tan when we were doing this in Northern Ireland when we did this scene.
There was a lot of spray on tan that went on in this scene. But you really feel like you're in one place. And these background players here were so great. They really got into it, and they were so important. To be interested in what's going on and engaged and everything, and they did a wonderful job.
We use so many extras in Northern Ireland, and they're not like any of the extras I've ever worked with. Like, they're not like the so-called professional ones that we're used to here in North America, who's kind of like have been doing it for years as a living. They really throw themselves into it and give it everything. They act their guts out. They're really good.
And now, I agree with you. Now, this isn't back in Split, and this is the scene that we were going to Split for this particular episode, and then ended up in the catacombs as well. And I love this. I love this. It's right in the old town. It was so great. The other challenging thing in that previous scene was that we're speaking in a make-up language.
That too, but I mean, this one was a bugger because these streets are absolutely crammed with tourists. It was height of the tourist season. The cruise ship were coming in. How long did they give us these alleys for?
We just had them for a few hours.
Fast.
We had to go so fast, and there's tourists because they watching us because they found out that Game of Thrones was shooting there, so we'd have to keep them back in between takes, but then they would come through. And this location, Klis in Croatia, was spectacular, but very challenging for us to shoot because this is a very long, skinny ruin. And we shoot 16 by 9, and so we really, where you want to be is where a helicopter goes, which is out in front of it, so you can look at it lengthwise. So you have to look down the long ways, down the side of it here. This is on a crane, this shot. And that, of course, in the distance is CG. So every time we looked off the ruins, it was CG had to get involved, and they did an amazing job.
They did. I think the 2 days we had to do this scene were probably the most intense for me anyway. I think probably for you too, because we had so much to accomplish. It just takes so long to marshal so many people from one place to another.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was really stressful.
It was really exciting. It was challenging. I wore a pedometer because I was curious to see how far that I ran. And one day I finished one of these 2 days here. I was so hungry, and I looked at the pedometer, and I had walked 9.2 miles that day, just going back and forth on the ruin. It was incredible. I love this location, and these people, the background players didn't speak English, and so we had a translator. So every time I gave a direction, we'd hear it spoken in 1 or 2 more languages.
Yeah, over megaphones. And I have to say, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of some of the Croatian crowd wranglers they had. Those guys were necessarily, I suppose, pretty stern.
Yeah. And then our wonderful art department again built these crosses and look at the visual effects guys did.
God bless them.
That was a very hard shot. All those guys had to be rotoed. This was super challenging, and all these pathways and everything, they're real. All those people in the crosses, that's all real.
It was like a medieval fortress from the Crusades era, wasn't it? Or before that? I can't remember.
Yeah,
it's very, very old structure.
And this we did on stage. This was a pullback shot that we did with a crane, but because of the stage floor, we can only get so far, and then CG took, the visual effects guys took it further. Well, that worked out well. I love, this was, to me, one of the most beautiful locations that we shot.
Location.
Oh my gosh. We were right on the ocean. This is in Croatia, again, outside of Dubrovnik. And the art department did something really beautiful here, because that's a cement platform, and then they actually painted it on to look like it was tiny little stones and tile, but it was a pattern that they painted over it, and you'd swear that it was real. And then all the stones around the square are fake, because it was modern day cement seating, and they just covered it up with fake stone.
It was a communist era patio for some big shot.
These guys are really fun to shoot with. And it's always fun doing a sword fight with Bronn and Jamie.
Two of my favorite characters.
Yeah, me too. They're such fun to work with. And then we had this did they use that shot that we got over at the other area? Rob and I put a camera with our wonderful camera operators off the end of that dock area.
They did
out over the water.
I think it is in here. Yeah, but all right, now
It worked.
A little bit of an issue with the sun going down before we really needed it to, but I think it works okay.
I think it works because we've got, looks kind of like sunset lighting. We had to shoot. We took all day to shoot this, and of course the sun changes. And we did want, Rob and I both wanted a sunset shot in there, so it meant the rest of the day had to look like it was, late in the day.
Getting there, yeah.
And you did an amazing job with that. I think the colorist did a really great job here, too, in helping.
Even it out, yeah. I mean, the light changes so much during the day, especially where water is concerned, because it reflects everything that's going on around it.
But that's amazing. That stone and that's on the cement there. That's not stone. That's cement with a paint job on it. I love that.
It's marvelous.
This is a wonderful moment here. I think when Bronn tells Jamie basically that it's his brother, how much his brother thinks of him. And Nikolaj's so great. Oh my gosh. And this was just such, oh my gosh, just shoot a scene with Nikolaj and Peter Dinklage is just a dream. These guys are wonderful. They're so good.
I got to say, this set was a bugger to light, because there was one window, interior window, and one little hole on the wall on the exterior side, or a little window on the other side. And we figured out a way to light this whole scene with two lights, one big one outside that bounced the light back at Peter, and one little, I think I had a torch out in the hall, and that was about it. Peter was marvelous in terms of modifying his movements so that he always found the light.
Yeah. Well, these guys are so experienced, and I don't know if people realize that sometimes that actors, as wonderful as it is to just focus on the performance, they also have to be aware of the camera and the lighting and all those things, especially when you're working at a fairly quick pace, and I mean it's all part of it, and all part of making it look better. But I love this. I love the simplicity of this scene. I love the relationship between these two brothers, and it's such a sweet scene. And these guys are so smart. They're so playful in what they do.
Did you do it? The Kingslayer brothers. You like it? I like it.
It's nice to have an excuse to use smoke on the set. It's so helpful with the lighting and creating texture and depth, and it just means you can use less light too, and it feels more natural. It's one of the, for a cinematographer, one of the best things about working on this show is not being able to fall back on there'd be a light on there, because everything has to be very natural.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten. I'd hate for you to do something.
I remember we also had dripping water we wanted to have in the set, but the water drips were so loud we had to turn it off.
Yeah, I did the scene in the tower with Brent in last season. I had water. It was supposed to be pouring rain outside, and we had water dripping, and it looked so fantastic in the 2 or 3 shots they had it in. But then they had to turn it off to please the sound man. It's a drag because it looks really great.
Not just yours.
I love the playfulness that these guys have. They're this whole cast is amazing. But certain people have different chemistries, and these guys have such great chemistry
really, really
together. Good. And Peter, Peter's he's one of the funniest people. He has got such a great dry sense of humor and delivery, and Nikolaj's a lot of fun. Oh my gosh! So this set gimbals, and it actually rocks.
It's on hydraulics.
Yeah,
which worked great for the first 15 minutes of filming. It was all dead quiet. We thought, oh, this is going to be great. We'll be able to see the light moving and everything. And then, I don't know, all the...
Something went wrong with the hydraulics, and all of a sudden all you could hear was, all the creaking and stuff. But then they'd fix it, and then we'd start up again. But what surprised me here is how little you actually see the set moving. Because when we were there, it felt like it was moving so much.
Moving very radically. Well,
yeah.
that's just it. And that's why we had to use these beams of light through the top, because in the smoke, because that's the only way you would have any sense of movement.
Right. I remember too. I was saying to Ben, our a camera operator, I said to him, I wanted him to pan off one of the actors to the other, and Ben's an excellent operator, and a couple of times he couldn't do it, and I'm like, I said, Ben, what's going on? It's because he was going counter to the movement of the ships. Every time he went to move the camera, the ship would go the other way, and then of course the weight and the force would rock the camera back.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, people were getting seasick in here, believe it or not, but that's what happens when you have a camera inside. I mean, you can see some movement here in the window, and we got a bunch of boards with sequins on them and reflected light into them to give the sense of the light kicking off the ocean.
Right, outside the window.
Reflecting in the ceiling, which I thought worked really well.
Yeah, you were really smart about that. That was great. Boy, these two people, I love, again, I love these actors. Sophie is, oh my gosh, she's so breathtaking. I guess if people listen to this and haven't seen the whole season, which I'm sure they will have, I just watched episode 8 the other day. My gosh, she is breathtaking.
Her arc is just really interesting, but then it is for
amazing.
Everybody on this show.
And so is Littlefingers.
Yes.
It's really, boy, this guy, and we find out a big secret in this in this scene.
Big one.
There's a lot of revealing of secrets in this episode.
It was.
And this was challenging for these guys too, because there's so many nuances. I mean, right here, he's really hitting on her. Mm-hmm. But he's got to be very careful. He's got to be very subtle about it. She's very young, and she's just been taken away from her husband. She didn't really want to be married to, but still, from everything she's known. The good thing is she's being taken to her aunt, which is she's being taken to family. But it's all very confusing what's going on for her, and then this guy's kind of hitting on her.
Like a lot of characters in Game of Thrones, her life really sucks.
I don't want friends like me. My new friends are predictable, very reasonable people.
I find his character the hardest to figure out, what he's up to. I mean, I really think that he is just so...
I mean, we know he's going for the prize, right?
Yeah.
But
all of the different things that he does. Now, this is in the gardens in Croatia, and what a treat to work with Dame Diana Rigg and the wonderful Natalie Dormer. This was fun.
If I have to take one more leisurely stroll through these gardens, I'll fling myself from the cliffs.
And I love this location.
I love this location, but it doesn't. People are going to go and visit if they find this botanical garden. They're going to go there and they're going to be very disappointed because it's not. It doesn't look like this.
Well, our wonderful art department comes in and brings in so many of flowers and plants. It still is a beautiful location. There's beautiful ruins there, but these guys make it look like it's part of a palace grounds, and there's upkeep and that kind of thing. So it's done very nicely. There's been a lot of things shot in the garden.
A great deal, yeah.
Yeah, this is where Joffrey's death was shot.
Evening.
I had to think for a moment. Wait a minute, has he died? Oh yeah, okay, I can talk about that. And this is another huge secret that's revealed here.
Massive.
Her grandmother was behind it, so involved. She's quite conniving.
To propose to my sister because the boy couldn't bloody walk.
And also when you think about it, especially for this era, although fantastical, it is many, it's a different era. They're pretty naughty what they're talking about, what the grandmother's suggesting.
Or even better, but you need to act quickly. Cersei may be vicious, but she's not.
Was it this the day it poured with rain, didn't it?
I
They poured really, really hard.
I actually missed this day. Dave Worley, our wonderful
you were at the
camera operator,
Emmys, weren't you?
had to take over for me because I had to fly back to L.A.
You had to go for the Emmys.
Yeah.
Because you were nominated for the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
and Dave Worley did a fantastic job. He really did. He did a great job, and it was challenging because we got hit with a huge rainstorm, but of course we needed it to look beautiful and sunny. And no,
it looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it does. And we also shot part of the walk and talk with Cersei and Oberon here, which is coming up, and we actually got rain on so hard we had to run for cover.
Yeah, not the first time that happened in Croatia either. Oh my God, some of those showers that came over were absolutely brutal.
I love it. I was so pleased that this shot worked out. Well, at least I thought it did.
It worked out. It definitely worked out.
This set blew me away the first time I saw it because this is life size. I mean, this set is built on the side of a rock cliff, and there's ice that goes up, or paint. There's a painted wall that goes up part way, and to representing the ice. And if you see beyond it at a certain point, which I'll point out coming up, it's visual effects. But all this is so real. And once again, we have these amazing background players from Belfast who are so invested. This kid was amazing. This little boy, Brennan O'Connor, is so amazing. He's really focused. Yeah, Oliver. He's so great. I really enjoyed working with him. Even when we were in the where they eat here
mess hall, yeah.
in the mess hall, he was so focused the whole time.
One day, right now, watch and learn.
You two. Take it slow. Try and disarm each other.
And the wonderful kid. He's so great. And oh my gosh, Noah, what a badass.
In talking to people, I was amazed at how, I mean, as much as, at that point in the story, Jaime Lannister was still kind of a bad guy because you had to learn about his selfless act at King's Landing and so on and so forth in season 3. But I was amazed at how many people were really mad at this guy for chopping Jaime's hand off.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brutal.
Was that your episode?
No. No, that was Dana David's episode.
Okay.
What do you think you're doing?
This is Thorne, played by Owen Teale, wonderful actor, a very dangerous character, very domineering and powerful, and I love that Kit one-ups him, that Jon Snow gets the better of him.
It's one of those roles, though, it's really going to follow him around because, people are only, it's such a powerful role and such a dislikable character. It's going to be really hard to get past what he's done there, and anything else he does, I would think.
Not here to protect you now. Get back to work! Now!
The writing is so smart because it really sets up in a great way for Jon to want to bond with Locke and in a very natural human way. And so it doesn't make him at all look not smart for, butting up with him and getting his help and everything. I mean, it's set up really smartly.
Yeah, it feels very natural. It's not contrived.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to say. A little tongue-tied.
The mutineers take care of Snow. Or you might be taking orders from him the rest of your life.
Vast today.
I'm trying to remember what time of year we shot this. I know,
I think it was pretty warm, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think we were,
Were we back from Croatia?
I think so, but it was still quite nice. Everybody was running around in shirt sleeves, so it's nice, beautiful fall.
And I think it's hard. Yeah, these guys have to wear all these heavy clothes. It always amazes me. I mean, the wardrobe's amazing. Michelle does such an incredible job, our costume designer, with all the wardrobe. But it's all real. So when these guys are wearing furs and leathers, and if somebody's wearing a tree or something, they're actually wearing a tree. I mean, it's very heavy.
It's extraordinary. I can't imagine. After they get all muddy and everything, you're always working in a lot of muck and mire and whatnot. And I sort of imagined the dry cleaners in Belfast when they see when they see our wardrobe department coming, it's like, oh fuck, another.
Oh my god,
we gotta clean that stuff.
I mean, I had five different pairs of pants, rain gear, because you have to rotate. You can only wear it once before it's completely muddied out and has to go to the laundry. Lena's so great here. So this is the first time that Cersei and Jaime have been together since the scene at the deathbed of their child. And, you know, it's a tragic scene because they've shared so much, and she's so obsessed with Tyrion being blamed for Joffrey's death. And, of course, Jaime knows that his brother's innocent. And she blows him off here. Another couple of amazing actors. It's such a treat working with these people. Lena and Nikolaj are just so talented, and they've got great chemistry. And there's a lot going on behind their eyes here. And we talked about it ahead of time because this did fall after the scene that everybody's been talking about. And, you know, what's going on in their characters' minds and their hearts. And I think he's quite devastated at the end of the scene when she dismisses him and he realizes that things will probably be different forever. Although, again, it's Game of Thrones, so you can never say forever, can you? It is bizarre, though, because Jaime is so despicable at the beginning of this series, and now we're all rooting for him. You know, he's become a human that we all can identify with in some level because he's been through so much. As weird and as strange as this relationship is, you hate seeing him get hurt, and she's so horrible to him.
If I told you to find that murderous little bitch and bring me her head, would you do it?
But I mean, it's so messed up because it's all about their kid dying and their brother and sister. It's a ew.
Yeah.
That creature who murdered our son.
I had to see him. I had to know for myself.
Can't.
I like shooting on the set, but this wasn't an easy set to light, was it?
No, it's a really hard set, you know, especially at nighttime. In daytime, you've got the windows, and it becomes a no-brainer in terms of how to light it. I think all the cinematographers approach it the same way. But at nighttime, it's a completely different story. And, of course, the set gets repurposed as also Tommen's chamber and a couple of other sets, too,
Right.
by redressing. And you want to mix it up. You don't want it to feel looking, you know, at all the same way. But it's very tall, it's oddly proportioned, and not that easy to work in, frankly.
These actors are so great here. I just love the subtlety, you know, the message is
They're
loud and
fantastic.
clear. And so this is actually the same room that we just shot in, as Rob was just saying. It's been repurposed. And this guy is so great. Gosh, he looks so much like Joffrey. And that I accidentally sometimes call him Jack, which is Joffrey's real name. He's so talented.
You have to find a way, you know, they'd never shot anything in King's Landing supposedly lit only with moonlight. And moonlight's a tough one.
Dean Charles Chapman.
That's it.
Tommen, yeah. He's fantastic.
How did you get past the King's
And this is so sweet. It's so funny because he looks younger than he is, which is right for the role. So he was playing things that you would play a little bit younger than you actually are, and he did such a great job of it. But we were giggling because, you know, I would give him notes that, you know, about what she's intimating, and that this is the first time, you know, a woman has ever come on to him like this, and you know how incredible, how much he likes it, but how terrifying it is at the same time. And I just thought he did a great job.
He did a really good job.
And look at him, he's absolutely petrified.
I like that swallow he takes
Me
there.
too. I
He's very
love
good.
the swallow. He's very good at that.
And I love being able to play it so that, you know, Marjorie can, we put that pile of extra candles by his bed for her to light, sort of, you know,
yeah,
she comes in
great.
and she comes in and lights his fire.
And then we had this cat. Oh my God, this cat that would just not stay on the bed. And, you know, these actors were so great and just going with whatever the cat did. And somehow our wonderful editor was able to cut around the cat. And there was definitely times where she was petting the cat and there was no cat there. It's her Pounce. So as soon as the cat got in the bed, he was out of there.
That's a Pounce.
And Natalie kept hanging on to the cat, trying to prevent him from going away.
Alfie didn't like him. He threatened to skin him alive and mix his innards up in my food so I wouldn't know I was eating him.
That's very cruel.
I love that shot. It's so beautiful, Rob.
You don't strike.
You can see that the cat went away and then it just went away again.
It can't make up its
I
mind.
don't think I am.
That's a relief.
But you don't see where it goes the first time, so I think it worked.
We say our vows in front of the High Septon, And after the ceremony, there's a
When we
feast
marry,
where-
I become.
And this was so cute here because, she goes, do you know what it means? And he's so innocent. Dean did a really good job of being very innocent. I think he's about 15 in real life, so he probably is fairly innocent, but I just mean he did a really great job of playing this. I mean, how adorable is that,
All right, then. Remember.
Beautiful lighting, Rob.
Yeah, I was really happy. I mean, it's a bit theatrical, when making her the.
I love this. I love that we only see one eye.
Well,
but you know what? That's all part of the scene, though. It should be theatrical and romantic, and
From a cinematography standpoint, typically the and an artistic standpoint, typically the feminine is the blue element and the masculine is the red element. But I thought it was really effective to reverse it, almost like she's taking the alpha role and he's the submissive one.
Right. And this is so sweet. I love that little smile that he gives. Oh, he's so happy. That was a fun scene to shoot.
This is everybody's least favorite set to work in.
Such a bizarre room. It's
teeny
a
tiny octagon.
Octagon, yeah. It's and then the table is an octagon, and it's very unusual. But again, two wonderful actors. And Gwen's about to get this armor, and this armor is real armor. I think it's kind of painful for Gwen to wear. She looks great in it, but I think she was pounding the Advil when she has to wear it because it's so heavy. Yeah, this was very challenging to shoot. We didn't get our pullback shot. You shoot a scene and then you give your cut, and then the producers have final cut. They're very generous in taking our notes very far along. But we did open up this scene originally with that shot that came across the table.
Mm-hmm,
We underslung a camera off a dolly or a jib arm.
Off a jib arm,
Off a
yeah,
jib
so
arm.
we could reach across the table.
Right, and so I wanted to pull back from the book. It used to start with them reading the book, and we pull back over the table, revealing the logo on the table. It was a fun shot. The guys did it really well, and anyway, some things have to be shortened. Time.
Yep, time.
I hope I got your measurements right.
And I love the relationship between these two, because I think these two actually love each other. I really do. I think she's in love with him, and I think that Jamie has such a huge regard for her, and I think there's a part of him that loves her too.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a sweet romance,
So
and
poignant.
it is. And I think that when they say goodbye here, to me, it's like
You
it's
get a real
love
sense.
that never gets to. Well, at least in this episode, doesn't get to. I don't know what's going to happen in the future.
I got a real sense here that neither one of them think they're ever going to see each other again.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think we shot it as if two people who love each other are saying goodbye forever. But who knows? This is Game of Thrones. Who knows what's going to happen? I think they'll see each other again. But that's just the romantic in me. What do I know? Pod, Daniel Portman, wonderful character. He's so great at the comedy. He's great at the physical comedy. He did some really funny stuff with the horse, which was very challenging for them. And Daniel's a wonderful actor. He's got great timing, and he's also so sweet and charming and really fun to work with. So this axe, we had a real axe and a fake axe, and we had to be very careful about getting the real axe near the horses. So Pod does a Hollywood switch here, which he did very well. He goes and picks up a backpack, and he switches right here. He actually switches axes right there. And I thought he did that very well. There was a fake axe behind that backpack that he
Fooled
did,
me.
Yeah, did it pretty quick. Fooled me every time.
Oathkeeper.
See, look at their eyes. Oh, these guys are so good. They've gone through so much together, and they've saved each other. They've saved each other's lives.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye, Brian.
But they can't say it. Oh, look at her. Oh my gosh. I love shooting this.
And
This was
then
great.
and then some immediate comic relief with Pod.
Well, he's like, yeah, he just
lighten the moment.
he just can't get that horse riding right, and he's so good at the physical comedy too. And then of course that CG in the background,
Very subtle.
and all that road is lined with trees, but a lot of these trees are put in by the art department. This is in Croatia.
Didn't I show? That's the road up to the citadel above Dubrovnik.
Mm-hmm. And this is back on our stage in
One of Deb's new sets, which
I love the set.
A subterranean library. That was a great idea.
This was out at I forget the name of the area, because this wasn't Titanic stages.
Oh, this is out in Banbridge in a former linen mill.
I love shooting this scene. I love shooting all the scenes for Game of Thrones, but these actors. Oh, Sam is so great. John is just wonderful. He wears his heart on his sleeve.
On the wall, all I could think about was getting my strength back so I could go and find him.
I wish I could have convinced him to come back with me. I tried. Really, I did.
How fast could they travel?
I had a lot with him last year. He told me a story about having to get out of drama school to go and audition for Game of Thrones, and they don't like it when you leave school to go when you miss classes and stuff. So he said he was very happy that he got the role because he had to do that.
I'd say that's acting student's dream come true, pretty much, isn't it?
Well, he's so talented. He's so gifted, John. Both Kit and John are just amazing.
Yep.
I don't mean to interrupt. Thorne wants to see you.
Your forehead crossed his keep.
We're supposed to be talking. I get sucked into it.
I'm hung up watching, the character we all hate.
Volunteers only.
Thank you, Sir Alistair.
They rebuilt the set. Originally, we had to shoot the set out on location, and it was just, for an interior location. The wind would come howling through, and
well, yeah,
it was a real
and
pain.
it still exists at the actual location, but this is on stage.
Thank God they rebuilt it. In Banbridge.
Yeah, this is I enjoyed shooting this scene. Once again, we had wonderful background players which contributed so much. And this is that scene where Oliver was he was just so attentive and really listened. I mean, such a key thing to being a good actor is listening.
Mm-hmm.
And he listens very well.
There's 60 miles of wilderness between here and Crosters. And Mance Rayder has an army bearing down on us. But we have to do this. Our survival may depend on us getting to these mutineers before Mance does.
These sets and the wardrobe and everything is just so rich and so layered. And there's so much that you can shoot. And on Game of Thrones, we do get to shoot a lot of different stuff. It doesn't always make it in. But it's really fun to be able to have all these different textures, all these different layers. Oh, that shot did get in.
Yeah, there's wonderful attention to detail.
He lived and died for the Watch. And he was betrayed by his own men, stabbed in the back by cowards. He deserved far better. All we can give him now is justice. Who will join me?
I love this. These guys, again, just such wonderful actors, because you really get the sense of Jon Snow being a leader, and these guys support him. Once again, there's Locke, presumably being supportive, and these guys being shocked that he's got the support.
I can't let a recruit come north of the wall.
Let me say my vows. If it's a fight you're heading for, then you need men who know how.
These guys had to eat a lot in this scene.
I can't remember what they were feeding them.
Chicken. I remember because I was really hungry and it looked good, but I still didn't want to touch it.
Oh, boy.
Dear. Well, okay, so Rob and I we really went for it in this. You know, one of the things about shooting this scene was to make these guys really horrible. I mean, look really, really, really disgusting and despicable people.
Just the worst place on the planet.
Worst place on the planet.
Drinking wine from the skull of Gio. Fucking.
And a lot of people have said that this comes across as, you know, these guys are really horrible. Our version was worse.
Oh my God.
Way worse. It was one of the Rob's my favorite shots didn't make it into the episode. I guess it probably grossed people out too much, but originally this scene opened up with a guy coming in, grabbing one of the women and taking us over to the food kitchen as a guy pukes towards the camera into the food that they're preparing. And it was a great
It would have been the first Game of Thrones barf shot.
It was a great shot. But this, you know, this is a really horrible scene. And of course, what people don't know is we're setting it up for the massacre of these guys.
What's to come?
What's to come?
Fucking balls.
And you know, it was challenging. We actually got a few professional sex actors to come in and do the scene with us. And then, of course, the local background just did an amazing job. But it was a horrific scene to shoot. But I think everybody, in a way, really got into it.
It turned out right. I mean, in reading it and knowing this location, which even at the best of times, everybody hates working in. It's so
my God.
horrible.
And Rob and I were there forever.
Forever, more than anybody. I think, yeah. But the goal was to find, you know, the visual cue was something, you know, between a Gustave Doré etching of the horrors of war and a Bruegel and Hieronymus Bosch all rolled into one, and I think we got it there thanks to, you know, the background and the dressing and everything else. We're lucky it's not smell-o-vision because the art department dressed this place with like hawks of real ham hocks all over the place, and after a couple of weeks of shooting, they didn't change them out, and boy did it stink. It was just so horrible.
It did. It just stunk.
What the fuck is that?
Craster's last child. A boy.
What am I supposed to do with him? What did Craster do with him?
And this baby, oh my gosh, we had a lot of little babies. Because you're only allowed babies on set for a very short period of time and really can't tell the difference between one baby to the next at this age. And so there was a lot of babies there. And we're always very, very careful with the babies. But this particular baby, just his reaction to burn here is so great. It was just, you know, a director's dream for the baby cried on cue.
So?
It's always I find it nerve-wracking shooting with little babies. You get very nervous, and we, in the scene where Rast takes the baby outside. See, look at this. He takes the baby and the baby cries. It was good baby. You know, Rast was not really comfortable with holding the baby character-wise, but also, you know, personally. And I think that it worked really well. So we had this scene where he's carrying the baby through the woods, and there's a shot that didn't end up in the episode where he walks out of Craster's Keep with the baby in his arms, and the mud was so thick, and I was terrified he was going to
all over the place. Yeah.
I was terrified he was going to drop the baby. So we had ADs below camera, all over the place, ready to jump in and catch the baby. God forbid. I mean, you know, he moved really slowly. We were super careful. And this makes us look like horrible people that we were leaving a baby in the snow. This is, I just want to say, all fake snow. It wasn't that cold out.
It wasn't cold at all. It was in the 50s, or in the 60s, pardon me. Yeah, we were.
I mean, this is 100% fake snow. The special effects department did an amazing job here. And this shot worked. It worked really well. It's the continuation of that high shot.
Just shooting these is the hardest thing. Anytime you've got a real baby crying for real, it just wrenches everybody's heart. It's really difficult. I mean, we always all just want to get it over with as quick as we possibly can.
We all want to run in there and pick up the baby. You know, it's tough. And the other thing that's really challenging is shooting with all this fake snow. You have a crane and everything. You have to predetermine every path. You know, you have to know where the crane's coming in, where the cameras are going, because there has to be lining put underground where the cameras and the heavy equipment and the crew and everything are going to walk. And you don't want to put it everywhere in the entire place. So there's a lot of planning, a lot of preparation that goes into it's every specific shot. And they, you know, so that we had this woods with all these different areas, you know, where the wolves are, where he leaves the baby, you know, where Brad and his guys are. There's a huge area that special effects Stuart and his team did an amazing job with putting all this snow out. It was really fantastic. And this was challenging because when the White Walker comes, the wind picks up and the snow starts and everything. And once again, that's special effects, and visual effects did the puddle here. But it's such a collaboration. It's very time consuming to shoot because all these elements have to come in. And this is in the same area. You in reality, Craster's Keep's just up over the corner there. Of course, they're not that close story-wise.
Do you hear that?
And I'm sure everybody realizes that the wolf is put in after the fact. So you storyboard where the wolf is going to be, and then there's this big stuffy they bring in for reference, and then everybody just has to imagine that the wolf is right there.
Then we shoot the wolves months later, like in January, the following January, in a green screen stage in LA. Yeah. And of course they have to scale them up. But working with real wolves is not easy.
Okay, so we used a new tool for this shot called the Movi, which I absolutely loved. It's a tiny rig that takes two operators to operate, but one operator is holding we did it with a red, I believe. And
one of them runs with the rig. It's very, very lightweight. 13
pounds. And then the other one goes behind him and operates it. And it's what we did for that, which I loved, was we ran through the woods very low to the ground, and the special effects guys dug a hole and put snow over top. And so our camera operator with this 13-pound rig is running along, and then he punched it through the hole when the wolf fell in the hole. And then we did another separate shot where we tipped up in the actual cage to make it look like he fell, and I think it worked.
It did work.
It was very simple, and it worked.
Those rigs are really, I think they're going to revolutionize things.
I do too. I think they're going to replace Steadicam.
We used it twice where you could not use Steadicam, and I don't know how we would have done it otherwise, frankly. We're not safe here. We used it in Iceland for that long walk and talk as well.
Yeah, that's right. We need to go now. And we walked on something that you couldn't use a Steadicam on.
No, would have broken everybody's ankle.
And our operators, Sean and David, did an amazing job with it, because one operator can move the rig, the actual camera, anywhere within his reach, can run as long as he can with it because it's only 13 pounds, and the other operator is actually rotating, panning, tilting, whatever the camera.
And those two are a perfect sort of team to be using that because they've both known each other for such a long time. I think they sort of both knew what the other one was about to do. So.
Yeah, they are awesome. They're so fantastic.
And I actually just recently used a Movi on a shot in a set here in LA, and it didn't work nearly as well. Because
you didn't have Sean and David.
No.
Yeah. Well, those guys were also practicing ahead of time and everything, and they did a really fantastic job with that. Hodor, oh my gosh, Hodor getting stabbed. That was challenging to do. He is so despicable, Byrne.
He's a perfect casting.
Yeah.
He's so good in this. And so is Rast.
He's so evil.
This is nice. Fine leather. Wild.
But how long were we at this place? 7 days?
I think it was more than that. It seemed like absolutely forever. And, it was, I think
We were just really happy we got to burn it down at the end.
Oh my God, everybody was so happy. I mean, even people who'd only worked there once or twice were happy to hear that it was gone.
The weather actually turned while we were there, and I've never seen mud. Well, actually, maybe in season 3 I saw mud that bad, but the mud was just you could get stuck in it and walk right out of your boots. It was
horrible.
Yeah.
Equipment would disappear into it. It was just and plus there was all those other awful things in there with
Well,
it.
there was, but it all contributes to the layering and the authenticity of it and everything.
It really does. There's it just feels so authentic and textured.
You drag a crippled boy all the way up here.
All these young actors here are so talented. They're wonderful.
See, you haven't played this game before. Highborn hostage.
Whenever I look at Thomas, I always think of Love Actually. He played the little kid in Love Actually, and who plays Jojen, and he's such a talented actor. Oh my God!
What the fuck's wrong with him?
And so this is egg whites, scrambled egg whites that are gonna come out of his mouth. Right there. Foaming egg whites.
A Brandon Stark of Winterfell.
It's Jon Snow's brother.
It takes a lot because the ADs, Richard Mark and their team, does such a great job because whenever you're looking out the door, there's always something going on. It's once again, it's so rich with layers in Game of Thrones, and it's got that very epic feel.
Yeah, stuff you'd never notice unless you watch it 10 times.
This was incredibly challenging to do and creatively really exciting because we shot this against a giant green screen. I have never seen such a big green screen in my life, which means everything had to be, his journey here had to be made up.
I think the green screen, they said, was the biggest in Europe for a couple of days until the wind blew it all down and they had to put it
Right. Yeah, that's right. And this little baby, oh my gosh, we had to shoot that a couple times, that shot. That shot's not actually moving, which is cool, and nor is this shot. This is some pieces we shot in a parking lot.
We just grabbed it in a parking lot.
Yeah.
They wouldn't give us any equipment. They were still shooting another episode, and we had to just grab what we could.
But this stuff here, I love this. We worked with visual effects ahead of time. We picked the plates for this, and then we had to, we storyboarded out and planned every particular shot, and we shot all this against green screen. And you hopefully you let your imagination go and you piece all these things together, but you don't really get to see it until you get the final thing. And the visual effects department just did an amazing job. We actually did have these ice sculptures, which Deb and her wonderful team made. We hired these local ice sculpture guys, and so this is all fake snow against this green screen, and then we had these real ice sculptures, and
we had to shoot fast.
We had to shoot fast because the ice was melting.
I thought this was a fabulous idea you had to shoot through the ice.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it worked really well. I love the shot. We didn't actually want to see all the White Walkers. This scene was not something taken directly from the books, and it's something that Dan and David created. And we really only wanted to see a hint of the one White Walker that's walking forward, and of course the one we've already seen. So this shot was very effective in keeping all the other White Walkers soft in the background. And I love this shadow. That's so great.
The tough thing for all of us was nobody, maybe Joe Bauer, a Viz Effects supervisor, had an idea in his head what this was going to end up looking like. But
this baby, oh my gosh.
Oh,
this baby just was amazing.
Absolutely.
Look at that.
It was perfect.
Yeah, it was so great.
And we got the reflection of the White Walker in its eyes. That was for real.
Yeah, it just that little baby was awesome. But it's funny enough, the sequence that we shot with the White Walker was actually longer than when it ended up being in the show. But boy, I was very happy with what the visual effects guys did.
I did too. It knocked me out. I mean, I had no idea. I hadn't seen a cut until I sat down on Sunday night and watched it. And I was really pleased.
Yeah, I was
did
really
not know
pleased
what to expect.
It's. I mean, you have the plates, you have everything, and you have your storyboards and all this kind of stuff. But really, until those guys take it over and work their magic, you don't know. And they really, Steve and Joe and their whole team just hit that out of the park, and it was really an exciting thing to be part of. I think we're supposed to say goodbye now. Thank you so much for listening. If you stayed this long and listened, it's such a pleasure to talk about Game of Thrones and such a honor to work on this show. Thank you very much from Michelle MacLaren.
And from Rob McLachlan, I feel exactly the same way. Thanks for listening.